Thinking Aloud. Conversations on the leading edge of knowledge and discovery with psychologist Jeffrey Mishlove.
Well, one of the developments in remote viewing that I think really comes from you that I find fascinating is the idea of numinosity of the target.
Numinosity is an idea that began with a 19th century philosopher and theologian, but it was really picked up, and I think the relevant view of it is Carl Jung, this Swiss psychoanalyst, and he says noumena are psychic entia. They are outside of space and time. What I really think you could say is that non-local information, noumena, exist outside of space and time. I think that Jung was struggling with how does the collective unconscious and these archetypal images, how do they arise? As Joseph Pearce struggled with the monomyth idea.
Joseph Campbell,
excuse me.
Yeah.
And so numinosity emerged in my mind, or where I saw it, was that I began to notice that people were much more successful describing religious shrines than they were similar structures that were used for mundane purposes. For instance, it's easier to see Chartres Cathedral than it is a warehouse of the same size. Why is that? I mean, they're both great big buildings.
Yeah.
And the reason, I think, is that Chartres Cathedral has been the focus for hundreds of years of people's intentioned, focused awareness under heightened emotional conditions, which is a part of it, and that this has changed the informational architecture in the non-local domain of Chartres Cathedral. It's not that it's changed the blocks of stone, it's that it has changed the informational architecture. Because the question is, do remote viewers go to the site? This was a big debate. If I gave you a remote viewing in which I had a picture of the Eiffel Tower, do you go to the Eiffel Tower or do you go to the picture?
Yeah.
And the answer, based on research, I think, is that you don't do any of that. You open by holding intention. I'm going to describe, Jeff, can you please describe for me the target that you're going to see in an hour? Now, in a typical way I would do it, there would be no target at the time. It would only get created after the fact.
Right.
So, but can you describe this thing that we're going to see in an hour?
Yeah.
And you would say, so that's my intention. And basically what I'm saying to you in the remote viewing session is, can we make an intention contract? I'm holding the intention of the target. Can you hold the intention of perception of the target? Yeah. If you agree, we now have an intention contract. We have a shared intention. That's why both of us are players in the outcome. When I talk about this biocircuit. So what happened was, in my case, I discovered, and I can remember the exact session that did it. I had a target that was randomly selected, but it was of a ski lift with people on skis on the ski lift going up the mountainside.
Okay.
And we did the experiment in the summer. And they described the ski lift very accurately. But they saw the side, they said this thing is going over a hill of wildflowers. And so I got up the next morning and drove up to the place where I had taken the picture, and by God, the mountain was covered with wildflowers. Right. So, did they go to the target picture? Well, maybe partly. Did they go to the mountain with the wildflowers? Although in the picture it's snow. Well, maybe. The answer, I think, is they didn't do either. What they did was open to the non-local information architecture. And more than that, this issue of numinosity, we see in the data also that people will be drawn to targets not necessarily as they are at that moment, but at the most emotionally engaging part of this.